Unclean, co-authored with Terry Black. 1. Job. Job Marin isn't surprised by the unwind order. He feels no anger, just resignation. His dad's litany still reverberates. This isn't a free ride, son. A man has to earn his seat. Dad sees the world in Darwinian terms. You have to fight to get what's yours. And Job's on the side of the dinosaurs. It doesn't help that his brother and sister are wildly successful, with Greg on his way to a basketball scholarship and Brittany on the dean's list at Willesee College. By contrast, Job has dismal grades, no awards or trophies, or even friends to speak of. He's exactly the sort of son Dad didn't want, a non-achiever, with no hobbies or interests or extramural activities. He should have seen this coming. When Job gets the order and the juvie cops show up at his doorstep, he doesn't even try to resist them. All he feels is tired and hopeless and all used up. Verbally confirm that you are Job Andrew Marin, says one of the juvies, the one with the eyebrow twitch. Job nods. I said verbally. Yeah, I'm him. Eyebrow twitch pulls out a card and reads it. Job Andrew Martin. By the signing of this order, your parents and or legal guardians have retroactively terminated your tenure, backdated to 6 days post-conception, leaving you... He drones on, reading the standard litany, but Job isn't listening. He looks at his parents standing awkwardly in the foyer of their modest home, his dad self-righteous and his mom uncertain. With his sister off at college and his brother at a basketball tournament, it's just his parents here to witness this. He's glad his brother and sister aren't here to have to see this sorry spectacle. At last, eyebrow twitch comes to the end. All rights and as a citizen thereof are now officially and permanently revoked. An awkward silence falls. Job's mom starts forward as if to embrace him, but Dad grips her elbow, shaking his head. The juvie's eyebrow twitches. Well, if there's nothing further, we'll be going. Thanks for your cooperation. Yeah, says his dad. Job is bundled into a van, which takes him to a bus loaded with dozens of other kids like himself, all numb and listless, hardly knowing how they got here. They're driven to the Woodland Bounty Harvest Camp in northeast Pennsylvania, outside Wilkes Bar, a sprawling estate smelling of rose and juniper, surrounded by cyclone fencing. Topiary hedges show an assortment of woodland animals. They're taken to a holding area and seated alphabetically at long tables, like it's some sort of standardized test. Job Marin, someone calls after a short while. He's escorted down a carpeted hallway and ushered through a door, marked examining room. Good morning, Job, says a man in a lab coat, smiling, but not offering his hand to shake. His name tag reads Dr. Frandl. Job imagines penciling in a Y to make his name Dr. Friendly. Job is seated on an examining table covered with sterile white paper that crinkles when he sits. It's like going to the doctor if the doctor was planning to extract your internal organs and give them out like lollipops to the kiddies. This won't hurt, says Dr. Friendly, wrapping a rubber strip around Job's bicep and extracting a blood sample. He sticks the vial in his pocket and says, "Wait here," and is gone for an annoyingly long time. Job looks around nervously. A window shows the camp's exercise yard, where teens are playing softball, lifting weights, and doing forced calisthenics. Upbeat music blasts from pole-mounted speakers, audible even through the double-paned window. Job wonders how he'll ever measure up, because he doesn't feel well enough for exercise. Finally, Dr. Friendly returns with a burly orderly and a nurse carrying a tray of medical instruments, most notably 2 syringes, one small and one unpleasantly large. Standard biopsy, he says, just to confirm the results of the blood work. He prepares the first needle. Anesthetic, he says. This will only sting a little. It stings more than a little, but that's not what troubles Job. What troubles him is that Dr. Friendly doesn't say anything when he approaches with the larger needle. Perhaps because this one will hurt. A lot. The orderly holds him firmly to keep him from flinching. It'll be quick, he says. The needle goes in. Job grimaces, refusing to scream, although the pain is excruciating. He wonders how much more it would have hurt without the anesthetic. At least the orderly was telling the truth. The needle is extracted. The pain begins to subside. They let him go. "You're a trooper," says the orderly. The doctor excuses himself and departs, carrying a sample jar labeled Marin J. His team follows him out, leaving Job alone. When Dr. Friendly returns 20 minutes later, he's smiling, but it seems forced. "I'm afraid you can't be unwound," he says with genuine regret. "A certain number of applicants simply don't qualify. Please don't consider this a reflection on your worth." "Why?" Job asks. "What did you find?" Dr. Friendly offers an apologetic grin. "It's not my place to say. Someone will be along to collect you shortly." The door closes and Job is left alone again in the examination room. He stares out the window, watching the others prepare for a procedure he won't receive, because he's not even worth the trouble of dismantling. 2. Health. "We got another one, Health." Caldron sighs. He's sitting in an office in the Centralia fire station, what used to be the Centralia fire station, with a sweeping view of the town below. But now, Centralia is a ghost town. It was abandoned when a fire erupted in the coal-bearing caves under the city, spewing toxic gas from dozens of boreholes. It was deemed unsafe to live here. The entire town was condemned by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, uprooting whole families, leaving a landscape blighted with rubble and ruin. A perfect place for AWOLs to hide, because no one gives a crap what happens here. "Who's the new guy?" Health asks. His assistant, an overachiever named Sebastian, checks a hand-scribbled note. "Job something, age 14. He's sick. Bad. They kicked him off the unwind list because his parts weren't worth harvesting. We found him at Wilkes Barre General Hospital." "How'd you get him past the guard?" "There wasn't one. Why would they guard the worthless?" Heath nods. "Good job, Sebastian. I think we can use him." Sebastian beams. That boy takes pride in his work. He thinks even if the work involves tracking down unwinds near the end of their natural lives and bringing them here to this backwoods hideaway, Heath has a plan for how to use them, something he hesitates to talk about except with his most trusted allies. Not even Anissa knows his plan. The cost of leadership, he thinks sourly. He likes Anissa a lot and wishes he could share what he's doing with her. She's the smartest AWOL that he knows. Pretty too, but Heath's plan is secret on a strictly need-to-know basis. Anissa, like everyone else, will find out soon enough, because he's about to strike back at the juvenile authority in a way they'll never see coming. 3. Anissa. "You won't have to lose the leg after all," Anissa says, examining Brent Lynch's below-the-knee wound with a practiced eye. "The swelling's gone down, so has the fever, and the skin tone looks a lot better. The antibiotics are doing their job." "Thanks, Anissa," says Brent, flipping his long hair out of his eyes. He's been confined to bed rest in this Centralia farmhouse for 3 days now, in a not-too-drafty bedroom, on a mattress that's mildewy and does the job. Anissa made sure he has clean sheets, fresh water, and the right black market medication, because he needed them after being infected with a tainted trank dart. Stupid to contaminate the organs they want to harvest, Anissa thinks, adding that to the catalog of things she hates about the juvies. She smiles, rebandaging the wound. "You may not ever be a track star, Brent, but you should be able to make the choice between walk and don't walk." Then she adds with a note of strong caution, "If you don't try to do too much too soon, give your body time to heal. You're no good to anyone otherwise." Brent nods, swiping at his hair. "Understood. I'm just glad you were here to help me. Were you like a med student before?" "Picked it up from my dad," she says. "Was he a doctor?" "No." Anissa smiles at the memory. He was a firefighter. 4. Job. Job sleeps with a little more peace than before, now that he's been rescued by this group of AWOLs. He's glad for the haven Centralia provides, but not sure how to repay them, if he ever can. Each passing day snaps his strength a little further, like a junker car with the gas gauge heading toward E. He knows he's dying. He knows he's only got weeks to live, and if he's lucky, he's only got weeks to live if he's lucky. Something he'd rather not think about. He cannot fathom why he's been shanghaied from Wilkes-Barre General Hospital to this remote, befouled wasteland. They expect nothing from him, just like at the hospital. He's given regular meals, whatever the others have managed to steal or barter from outlying neighborhoods, and otherwise left alone. His room is small and barren, with cracked plaster and a boarded-up window, but the vibe here is different from at the hospital. There, his care was obligatory. He was unwanted, but here he's clearly valued, for reasons he can't guess. Until Heath Caldron, the leader of the group, pays him a visit. He's charismatic, and Job could tell from the moment they met that Heath was in charge. It's how he holds himself. There's a confidence in his body language even before he speaks. "How you feelin'?" Heath asks. "Like the sun at sundown," Job mutters. Heath pulls a chair around to face him. "I know you're not well. Hell, I know you're dying." He shakes his head. "Your parents may not have known that, or didn't want to know it, but some people have a willful blindness about things they can't deal with. It was easier to sign an unwind order than to deal with a nasty, incurable disease." "My dad said I was weak," Job says. "He's wrong. Your issue is a medical problem. In fact, you're in a special class, what the juvies call unclean. We've been looking for people like you." "Why?" Heath smiles. "How would you like to be part of something really important?" 5. Anissa. Anissa Pruitt feels oddly at home in this dried-up town. She helped Heath choose Centralia as the location of their camp, since it was a long-forgotten and was also seldom visited. The place reeks of despair, but it's the best hope of survival, a haven that seems to reflect their angry struggle. She keeps thinking of the mine fire still raging under their feet, the pulsing heart of Centralia, a fire that can't be extinguished and will probably burn for 100 years. My dad would hate that, she thinks for the 1,000th time. She's meeting Heath at the graveyard, a place others would find gloomy, but which, like most of Centralia, is starkly appealing to Anissa, a reminder that she's still among the living. Every bronze plaque, each weathered headstone tells a tale that's forever lost. She wonders whether Centralia's ghosts can feel the heat of the earth below, warming up their resting places, like a sneak preview of the netherworld they'd rather avoid. "Enjoying the scenery?" asks Heath, coming to join her. "I usually do. You're late." "I had business," he says cryptically. She shrugs. Their walks together have become a daily ritual, even though he's often late and won't explain why. It's not romantic. Not exactly, but she likes his company, even if he doesn't talk much and hardly ever reveals anything. Heath has secrets, a trait that's both frustrating and oddly attractive. They're set off down Locust Avenue, the main street of Centralia, where most of the AWOLs have made their home. Weeds sprout from cracks in the asphalt, engulfing old rusted-out cars. The houses have fallen into despair, many uninhabitable. Some stripped to the bare foundation. The air smells of sulfur, like rotten eggs, because of gas burning from the mine. Not many would find this beautiful, but Anissa does. It was a family trait, after all, to find hope in the heart of disaster and plunge into it head on. "You're thinking about your father again, aren't you?" Anissa smiles. From the beginning, Heath could always read her. "This all reminds me of him, Heath. Because he was a firefighter, because he was a good one. He never gave up on anything, no matter how terrible it seemed. He'd walk right into a burning building, like he was strolling through the park. He said a fire wasn't made that he couldn't beat. Even this one," she grins. Dad once said he'd like to go to the mouth of the Centralia mine, take a deep breath, and just blow it out like a birthday candle. But he was like Bunyan of he was the Paul Bunyan of the firefighters. You'd almost believe he could do it. But in the end, the fire beat him. Anissa looks away. She appreciates Heath's frankness most of the time, but doesn't like to be reminded of the day her father died. It was years ago, almost a decade, but the memory still troubles her. Martin Pruitt died on the job, battling a 4-alarm blaze in a seedy Harrisburg warehouse. He went in wearing a heat suit, a computer-controlled outfit designed to make any fire survivable. The suit could keep its wearer cool and comfortable, even if the outside temperature rose past broiling. But its greatest benefit, inspired by Unwind technology, was that it could amputate injured limbs if necessary. He was trapped in a burning basement, and his heat suit recommended severing his limbs one at a time to conserve life-saving oxygen. It would buy him precious minutes, time enough to be rescued, and as a firefighter, he'd be in a prime position to receive replacement body parts. But he refused, knowing the parts might come from a troubled teen who'd been forcibly taken and unwound. My dad could have survived, Anissa says bitterly, but he didn't want unwound limbs. He wanted to save lives, not use others to save his own. There's an awkward pause. A raven perches on the wall of a burnt-out building, craning its neck at them. Anissa wonders what's going through Heath's mind, until he surprises her with an expression of honest sympathy. You must have loved him very much, Anissa. She nods. He loved me too. I'm sure he never imagined I'd end up with foster parents who'd sign an unwind order. Selfish idiots, said Heath. That's the problem with unwinding. It's not about problem kids. It's about problem adults. He spits on the ground. Your father was better than that, and it cost him. Heath looks at her with keen calculation, as if deciding how much he trusts her. He seems to be weighing the pros and cons on some imaginary scale. Finally, he lowers his voice, though there's no one remotely close enough to overhear, and says, We may be able to change all that. What are you talking about? I'll show you. 6. Heath. Heath knows it's dangerous to let Anissa in on his plan, but he can't keep it from her anymore. He needs her to know. He takes Anissa into the fire station, upstairs to the barracks, which Heath has converted into a fully functional medical research lab. It's easily the most modern part of this reclaimed town, with a portable generator, a centrifuge, and an autoclave for sterilizing, and a high-powered microscope to examine samples. All lifted from a medical supply firm in Lancaster during a midnight raid by Sebastian and some volunteers. The lab is littered with slides and beakers and pipettes, under a mountain of scribbled-in notebooks. This is where it happens, Heath says, perching on a lab stool. Where what happens? Change. Real change. He waves her onto another stool. It's not easy to pull off. The clappers want to do it by blowing up things. They've accomplished nothing. Brute force doesn't work. We have to beat these people at their own game. How? They're interrupted by someone coming up the stairs. It's Job. He's fish pale and wheezing, out of breath from the climb. To Heath, he seems like an old man crammed in a kid's body. This is Job, says Heath. He's been helping us. Still am, says Job warily. And we're grateful. What you're doing here helps more people than you can imagine. Heath pulls a long syringe from a cabinet and has Job get onto an examining table. He knows Anissa won't want to see this, but she needs to, so she can understand. Job, I need you to lie on your side so I can take a fresh sample. The scrawny kid gets into a position while Heath eases the extra long needle into his lower back. Job grimaces, but makes no sound. Heath withdraws some fluid, then pulls out the needle, squirting the viscous sample into a petri dish, forming a yellowish puddle. Liquid gold, as far as he's concerned. Take a look, he says, sliding the sample under a microscope. then moves aside to let Anissa squint into the eyepiece. What am I seeing? It's what you're not seeing, says Heath, glad for the chance to share his secrets. This may be a mistake, he knows, jeopardizing their mission for the sake of impressing a girl he's grown fond of. But he's sure he can win her over, once she understands the full scope of his design. Job has cancer, he says bluntly, in his kidneys, lungs, spleen, and pancreas. It's metastasized throughout his body. You should be seeing tumor markers like fatal protein and microglobins, but you don't. Why not? Because we've developed a cellular camouflage, a blood-borne enzyme that mimics normal body chemistry. The standard method of detecting cancer won't work, which means Job and countless others can submit to unwinding and be accepted by doctors with no idea they're extracting deadly, cancerous organs. Anissa recoils. How does that help us? Anyone who receives one will be getting a death sentence. It'll sink the program, don't you see? No one will want an unwound organ if they can't be guaranteed safe. But you'll be killing people. Heath knows that's true, but it doesn't change his conviction. We're killing a few to save many more. 7. Anissa. The sense of betrayal is great at the moment she was told she was to be unwound. But this isn't just a personal betrayal. It's treason against everything that makes them better than the unwinders. Everything that makes them human. Have you lost your mind? She yells. But clearly, if his mind was lost, it happened long before she met him. This isn't just a spur-of-the-moment plan. It was premeditated, calculated, perhaps for months. This has been simmering inside Heath, like the hellish fire in the mines beneath their feet. Only then does Anissa look to a series of shelves beside her, dozens of petri dishes, growing God knows what. Heath has turned the lab into a seething cauldron of biological weapons. We have bacterial infections, cancers, viruses, and we've hidden all the biological markers, he tells her, proud of his accomplishment. We're going to release plague after plague on those who would receive unwound parts, and the world will finally see unwinding as the horror it is. Her fury explodes. Before she can stop herself, she sweeps her hand over one of the shelves, knocking off the dishes, spilling their tainted specimens. They shatter on the floor, but not before one of them cuts her hand, right between her two fingers, and a deep, painful slice. Her blood drips onto Heath's research notes, smearing the paper like a red Rorschach. Anissa, wait! He tries to stop her, but she evades his grasp and stalks out of the lab, glass crunching under her heels. It was Anissa who chose the firehouse as the center of their operations. All the more horrifying now that she knows what Heath is using it for. It was once a symbol of survival for the town. Despite the evacuation, a few diehard residents dug in and refused to leave, staying in their homes, resolute, as the town evaporated around them. Law enforcement ceased, roads went unrepaired, the postal service stopped delivering mail, and as a final insult, revoked their zip code. The firehouse was the last to close. Anissa isn't sure when they finally shut it down, sealing the big roll-up door for the last time. But before that happened, some enterprising civil servant had begged, borrowed, or maybe stolen a fully functional heat suit, like the one her father had died in, the one that might have saved his life if he'd been less stubborn and more self-serving. The heat suit is kept in a little alcove off the main garage. It hangs from a hook on the wall, seeming to hover above the ground. A sign reads, "Use with extreme caution," in old, faded lettering. This is where Anissa goes when she needs to be alone. And now, she needs that more than ever. It's become a shrine to her. That big yellow suit with the glazed faceplate and heavy reinforced boots. The joints are knobby and wide, with each equipped with antiseptic feeds and and razor-sharp scalpels ready to sever damaged, non-crucial limbs with frightening efficiency. Anissa doesn't like to think about that because it's not how firefighting is supposed to work. You don't just lob off body parts. It's about standing tall and saving lives. Clearly not an ethos that Heath shares. His plan is all about crawling. She calms herself by looking up at the suit. She can picture her dad in there, wise and brave and bigger than life, close at hand like a guardian angel. She wishes she could be as brave as he was, or that she knew what to do, like he always did, no matter what was thrown at him. She could use some of Dad's wisdom now. She sighs, massaging her hand. She's wrapped a handkerchief around it, but it's still oozing and angry, tender to the touch. You probably don't want to talk to me, Heath says, coming up from behind. Go away, Heath. She doesn't turn around. We have nothing to talk about. Oh, but we do. He steps right in front of her. The plan is moving forward, Anissa. We need to do this. We need not to. He starts to argue, pleading his case, but seems to sense the futility of it. Instead, he softens a bit, trying a different approach. Do you know why this matters to me? I don't care, she says, but it's not entirely true. Anissa knows little about him, despite all the time they've spent together. Their headlong flight from the juvenile authority and their joint decision to make camp here. She often wondered about Heath's history, what drives his campaign to end, unliving, as he calls it, and how far he'll go in pursuit of the cause. She senses a window opening, a chance to learn what he seldom reveals. Okay, tell me, why does it matter? Because of who I am, what I am. Which is that? Or which is what? I'm not an unwind. I'm the opposite of an unwind. She frowns, trying to understand. Go on. I was born with a defective liver. The doctors said I was living on borrowed time. When I was 15, it failed completely. I wound up in the hospital, not expected to live more than a week, and my parents couldn't afford a replacement. Anissa tenses, not knowing what's coming next, but knowing that it's bad. They couldn't afford it, but they had an alternative. Heath continues. My brother Brian was a stork, unexpected and unwanted, but raised with the same love they had for me. Or so I thought. Heath takes a deep breath, as if steeling himself for the next part of the story. They sold him to the black marketers, the black market unwinders, in exchange for a new liver and the operation to implant it. They said it was the only way to save my life. I said if that was the only way, I'd rather not be saved. I begged them not to sacrifice Brian, but I couldn't stop them. He chokes up at the next part. They refused to tell me whether or not my new liver was actually his. Anyway, as soon as I had healed, I ran away from home. I knew I had to help the AWOLs, but I was never one of them. He stops talking. Anissa hesitates, unsure how to respond. She doesn't doubt that his story is authentic, and it explains his consuming obsession with unwinds, but it doesn't change anything. I understand now, she says, not without sympathy, but I'll never agree to your poisoned organ plan. Here's what I know. The people getting those organs don't deserve them. They're parasites living off the flesh of others. If they get diseased organs, they brought it on themselves. You think it's that simple, she snaps? A few people die and all this goes away? That's not how it works. They'll figure it out. They'll find better ways of testing the organ supply, and they'll trace the contamination right back here. You'll change nothing, except to get a lot of people caught. People who trusted you. People they'll unwind because of you. Then suddenly, she's grabbed from behind. She turns to find two big bruisers, ex-military buffs, two of the dumbest but most obedient of Heath's AWOLs. She struggles, but their grip is unbreakable. I brought them along, Heath says, in case there was a problem. He nods, and she's taken away to a utility room in the firehouse, dank and smelling of old boots, where she's locked away while the plan proceeds. She's gone from being Heath's friend to Heath's prisoner, and her hand is getting worse. Days pass. She's allowed meals but no visitors. Heath's keeping her in isolation, probably because he doesn't want his precious plan revealed until it's been set in motion and can't be stopped. That won't be long now, she reasons, because the level of the activity in the firehouse has markedly increased, judging from the background noise and shouted orders and muffled conversations. This can't work, she tells Sebastian when the cracks open the door to slide in a plate of not very warm macaroni. He's gonna get you all killed. Don't know what you're talking about, says Sebastian, though plainly he does. Tell Heath I'm hurt. I need medical supplies. I cut my hand. My heart's breaking. The door slams shut. Anissa's hand really is getting worse, the wound purpling, with reddish veins radiating from the point of incision. A scary, dangerous infection. She's sure it must have been contaminated with something from the petri dishes in Heath's laboratory. Like I don't have enough to worry about, she thinks, painfully flexing her fingers. She has to reach Heath, talk to him before it's too late. But it already is. 8. Sebastian. Sebastian is waiting when the empty bus pulls up outside the firehouse, and he signals a line of AWOLs, all dressed in white, to climb inside. Job is at the head of the line. Break a leg, Sebastian says. All the teens boarding the bus are terminal patients too, far along in their particular diseases to be saved by healthy organs. Some have been given incentives to cooperate, money for their families, perhaps, or promises of more personal nature. Others have volunteered, choosing a meaningful death rather than merely a miserable one. They've been inoculated with Heath's chemical camouflage, and they're being sent to various harvest camps for unwinding. The pretext is that they're tithes, volunteering themselves for the good of society or whatever, and Sebastian has created a data trial that seems to confirm that. Birth records, family histories, personal details, but it's all a fabrication. The truth is that they're about to unleash a biological nightmare on anyone who receives their organs. 16, 17, 18, Sebastian says, nodding, consulting his checklist. All present and accounted for. The door closes, and he thumps it with his palm, wishing them Godspeed. Excuse me? Asks the timid voice. Can you help me? He turns to see a pigtailed girl in a ragged dress, wearing a frayed backpack, approaching the firehouse. She looks hungry, dirty, and tired. Sebastian wonders how far she's traveled to reach them. He also wonders how she managed to get past the perimeter and enter their secret compound without being noticed or confronted. I'll have to look into that. Please, she says. I'm an unwinder. I was supposed to be. I've been hiding out, and I heard you help unwinds. Please, can you help me? Of course we can, he says, smiling. You're welcome here. Thanks so much. Sebastian waves at as the bus pulls out, then turns back to the pigtailed girl. What's your name? But he never finds out, because she spreads her hands and powerfully claps them together, changing Centralia's geography. 9. Blast. The clapper's blast is far more powerful than even the architects of explosion expected. It splits the ground and strikes a pool of stagnant methane gas that has quietly accumulated over a period of decades beneath the poisoned town. The resulting detonation hollows out the fire station in a blowtorch-hot column of Old Testament flame. Sebastian is barbecued in the first instant of the explosion. The bus flies off the roadbed like a toy tossed by a child, its frame buckling, tires and windows exploding from the heat. Buildings crumble, abandoned houses are blown off their foundations. Blazing shrapnel flies in all directions, casting a debris field the size of a stadium. Droplets of molten glass fall like rain. A road sign reading, "Welcome to Centralia," is flung skyward, falling to earth 4 miles from the post it was nailed to. The green growth overwhelming the streets is burned black, like the scene of a battle. Those who can flee for their lives as the inferno blossoms and rages engulfing the town. 10. Job is sitting near the back of the bus when the clapper detonates. The bus heaves and lurches, flipping on its side, with everyone screaming and glass windows melting. Is he really seeing that? And the whole world turned red as paint, just for a moment? Like a modern version of Dante's Inferno. He's thrown headlong into the rear emergency door, which snaps open under his weight. Job is catapulted onto the pavement, landing too hard, feeling bones break. The street burns to the touch, like a griddle, but he can't get up and run because he's broken his leg, or maybe both legs, maybe even his spine. He can only crawl, trying to reach the grass, though that's burning too. He's trapped in a walking nightmare. But even in the middle of the disaster, a part of him marvels that surprise is still possible, even for the dying, because his path to oblivion has taken a startling turn. Heath said that Job would be helping more people than he could imagine. Instead, he's helping no one. He feels the bitterness of disappointment, almost worse than his injuries. His death will not count. He's become the failure his father always said he was, until he hears a faint voice yelling, "Help!" 11. Anissa. Anissa is sitting in her makeshift cell when the walls splits open, like the shell of a melon. Miraculously, she's shielded from the blast wave by a bank of lockers, which crumbles like tinfoil but saves her life. She staggers into the burning garage and is nearly crushed when the heat suit topples on her. Then, before she can squirm out from under it, a beam comes down, pinning her beneath it. I'm trapped here, she realizes, by a machine designed to protect people from fire. It seems the cruelest of ironies. Worse, the building is heating up around her, as the garage is consumed by flame. She yells, "Help!" again and again, not really expecting an answer, because if Dad's death has taught her anything, it's that prayers rarely get answered. Miracles seldom happen, and no one's coming to save her. She can only be brave like he was and wait for the end, probably a bad one. It's already searingly hot in here and is getting harder to breathe. Then something moves. Something's coming toward her through the collapsed wall of the garage, crawling with painful slowness. She squints and recognizes him. Job, the multiple cancer victim. The very last person she'd expect to be mounting a rescue mission. "Hang on," he says, and Anissa wonders if he's talking to her or himself. "You're hurt," she says. "You're trapped," he says back. He manages to reach her and tries to dislodge the beam without the use of his legs, but he can't. It's too heavy. Anissa rocks back and forth, and Job pushes, working together to free her. "Why are you helping me?" she asks, then looks into his face and doesn't need an answer. She already knows. It's too late for Job to save himself, but not too late to save someone else. Finally, the beam slides off the heat suit, clattering to the floor, and Anissa wriggles out from under the suit. Job, now lying on the ground, lets out a shuddering breath. He looks up at her, his eyes glazing, life draining from him, yet he smiles. "Did it," he says. "Made it count." Then he releases a final rattle, and it's gone. Anissa touches his face in a moment of a silent communion, closing his eyes. It's too late to thank him, too late to say goodbye, but even if she could, there isn't time, because she has to move, to seize the chance he's given her. With flames licking closer, she wriggles into the heat suit, sealing it like her father showed her, just as the ground beneath her gives way. Anissa falls into an ocean of fire. It's a long fall, much longer than Anissa expected. Finally, she strikes the hard ground, sprawling forward. Within the suit, her infected hand erupts in pain. She's lying prone on a rough, uneven surface, rock walls looming close, a loose mortar tumbling through the hole she's dropped through. Awkwardly, she climbs to her feet. The suit adjusts automatically to Anissa's height and body size, as if it was custom fitted. The headlamp snaps on, but she can't see much, just a fiery wall of burning gas. This isn't the basement, she realizes. She's fallen into the blazing depths of the Centralia mine, the longest-running fire in history. Before her, the burning mine snakes off into the distance, but despite the blistering heat, the suit's interior is almost comfortable, thanks to its built-in climate controls. She tries to walk, take her first tottering baby steps. Her hand, infected, feels like a knife has gone through it. The heat suit's faceplate display winks on, and Anissa squints, trying to focus. The display provides an interactive readout showing everything she needs to survive. The outside temperature, her current location, the oxygen reserves, and remaining battery power. Still over 80%. After years of disuse. With luck, it's enough to get her to safety, but it won't be easy. The temperature in the mine is a searing 647 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to flash boil her sweat away if it escaped the heat suit's recycling system. The temperature in the mine fire can reach 1,000 degrees, so she counts herself lucky she still can't see anything. Just flames curling and dancing, filling the cavern. She can only follow the moving maps projected on her faceplate, just like Dad used to, she thinks, though it's not comforting because he was doing that when he died. She stumbles, jamming her hand against a spur of rocks, and cries out in pain. She can't see her fingers under the bright yellow glove, but they feel swollen and tender. She wonders if the suit's biomedical scanners will detect it. They do. On the faceplate readout, a picture of her hand appears. Sepsis detected, it says. Recommended amputation. Standard procedure, she knows, is to anesthetize the injured limb and then sever it. Something the suit can do automatically. But for Anissa, that's not an option. Amputation refused, she says. She keeps walking, trying to figure out what happened above ground. Then the Centralia camp has been attacked, maybe destroyed, by forces unknown. Someone who knew where they were hiding out and decided to squash them. She wonders if they knew somehow about Heath's poisoned unwind program. If Sebastian and his scouts were too conspicuous in hunting down candidates and attracted the wrong attention from someone who decided to destroy them. Or perhaps there was a mole. Someone Heath trusted but shouldn't have. All she knows is that there was a massive explosion, like a Clapper's detonation, although she can't imagine why Clappers would be involved. Blowing up a secret AWOL camp doesn't seem like the high-profile kind of terror they'd go for. Not that it matters. My friends are gone, she thinks despairingly. Heath's gone. I warned him, but they found us too soon. There's a lump in her throat, an aching sadness for everyone consumed by the inferno. The ones who survived it will probably be captured and taken to the nearest harvest camp. But she can't worry about that now. Her priority is survival. She checks the readout. The temperature's rising, and she's headed down, not up. The map display says surface access 6.3 miles. Worse, the suit's cooling system is starting to stutter, overloaded by the unrelenting heat. But that's not her worst problem. She's being followed. It's there on the map, the red blip of a second heat suit behind her, drawing steadily closer. Anissa tries to pick up the pace, the sweat beading on her brow, her hand throbbing incessantly. She keeps glancing backward as if to spot her pursuer, but of course, he is not visible. The rippling flames conceal him from her view. Only the instruments on her heat suit can detect him, until he speaks. "Come back, Anissa," says a voice in her earpiece. She remembers Dad telling her the heat suits could communicate over short distances using subsonic transceivers. But the real surprise is who's talking. I can protect you, says Heath Calderson. Leave me alone, Anissa says through the heat suit's subsonics. I can't let you kill yourself. This is suicide. It solves nothing. Come back with me and they won't hurt you. They just blew up half the town, moron. Why wouldn't they hurt me? Because I cut a deal. They take me, you go free. Just like that. Not just like that. I gave them everything. My notes, records, my notes, records, whatever survived the explosion. Enough so they'll never be fooled again. Whatever threat I posed has been neutralized. Anissa hesitates. And in return, I go free? I had nothing else to bargain for. They won't let me go. They only let me come down here because it's near suicide. They don't care if we burn up down here, but if I can bring you back, at least you'll have a future. Not much of one, Anissa flinches. My hand's infected and it's getting worse. Cut it off, he says. They'll replace it for you. Anissa stands, stock still, processing what she's heard. She remembers Heath's brother who was sold to organ harvesters to save him. An act so revolting that it defined his life forever. What would make him betray everything he believes in just to save a fleeing AWOL, who he doesn't even seem to like much? You're afraid of me, she says, afraid of what I may know. You know nothing. But you can't be sure of that because you're not Heath. Anissa shuts off the transceiver, pushing herself harder than before, determined to escape, despite her failing health. Her pursuer, the man impersonating Heath, seems to be getting closer, though it's hard to be sure. The only thing she knows for certain is that he's got a more advanced heat suit than that can, among other things, mimic voices. Heath has been captured, or more likely killed. She knows that. They must have swooped into the wreckage of Centralia and started capturing AWOLs, rounding up survivors like ducks in a pond, until they realized that the mine has blown open. The heat suit was missing and someone had escaped, right out from under them, into the burning maze under Centralia, and they sent someone in after her, with orders to make sure that no one escapes. The word sepsis detected seems to pulse with a life of their own, like an attention-grabbing headline. The outside temperature has dropped to a balmy 619. She wants to break into a run, but the heat suit isn't built for that. She can only keep walking, at maximum speed, though, through this surreal landscape. If she slows or stops, he'll catch her. If she succumbs to the spreading infection, making her dizzy and weak and sick, he may not even have to catch her. She can feel her strength draining away, the pathogens in her bloodstream spreading, her world turning gray at the edges. You can't escape, says a soft voice. Not Heath's voice. It's coarser and lower pitched, because the man behind her isn't pretending anymore. He's become brutally candid. I turned you off, Anissa says. I'm on an alternate frequency. We know you're Anissa Pruitt. It's time to stop running. Why? What's the alternative? Is there a reward for giving up? A painless end, he says. A chance to live, divided. Gosh, thanks, Anissa thinks, but says nothing. Her pursuer doesn't wait for an answer and elaborates on his proposal. I know you're hurt, Anissa. I know how badly you're hurt, because our suits automatically share information. You're in a lot of pain right now, but you don't have to be. Give yourself up, and I'll adjust your anesthetic feeds to end your pain. Then I'll get you out of here. You'll be taken to a harvest camp, and your organs will help others keep living. You'll keep living. Through them. Isn't that better than this pointless suicide? Shut off all frequencies, she says. The voice cuts off, leaving a strained silence. He's still there, a red blip on her readout, mute but relentless. Anissa steels herself. The mine stretches impossibly before her. Her feet are heavy, hard to lift, and the heat suit's getting uncomfortable. She's in a race she can't win, burdened by infection, unwilling to surrender. A part of her wants to amputate the hand and be done with it. It makes sense, because it would neutralize the infection. Amputation wouldn't cure her. The sepsis in her blood would have to heal gradually over a period of time, but surgical intervention would help kickstart her body's own recovery system. There's just one problem. She can't bring herself to do it. My dad wouldn't, and I won't either, she thinks, gritting her teeth. These suits were designed for firefighters, ready and willing to receive unwound parts. Accepting amputation would make her complicit. This is the line she won't cross. The very thing she won't do, even if it means she'll die in this awful mine. Her one consolation is that they can't harvest her if she's dead. By the time they drag her body out of here, it'll be in no shape for organ donation. So she keeps walking. She'll walk until she kneels over from septic shock. This is where I die, in a tunnel of fire that feels like damnation. Then an idea dawns. A stupid idea, something she'd never have the nerve to try under any other circumstance. She's not sure she has the nerve to do it now, but her other options are narrowing. It's either give in and let the machine amputate, or this. She breaks the seal on her left-hand glove, peels back the reinforced fabric, exposing her flesh. It's sickly red, raw, sticky and oozing, and the superheated air strikes her nerve endings, making her cry out in pain. But the worst is yet to come. If this doesn't work, Dad, she says, I'm sorry. And she jams her bare and palm fist against the red-hot wall of the mine. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Don't faint, she thinks. If you faint, you won't get up again. But the ground is unsteady, lurching and heaving like a ship at sea, and the shock threatens to claim her because, oh my God, it hurts. Worse than anything she's ever imagined. She wants to curl up and die, wants it badly, but that merciful surrender is something Anissa can't afford and won't permit herself. She has to keep going. The flesh of her hand is seared, but she tries not to register that. She pulls her glove back on over the ruined flesh, nearly screaming at the pain as the pain reignites, refusing to stop until the hand is covered again. Her faceplate reads, 3rd-degree burn and severe tissue damage, and once again, amputation recommended. But the sepsis message flickers and fades. Because I burned it out of me, like putting a torch to an open wound, she hasn't cured herself, not entirely. Her blood is still tainted, but she's removed the primary source of infection and begun the process of healing. Her immune system will do the rest. Amputation refused, she says. She takes a step forward, then another, and another. 2 miles later, she's still going, and so is her pursuer. With the nerve endings in her hand burned away, the pain has settled to a powerful but manageable throb. Her pursuer is getting closer, gaining ground. She realizes there's one last chance to lose him. Up ahead is an overhanging rock shelf, slicing across the tunnel at a place where it narrows to near impassability. Probably from a cave-in where the support beams were burned through and couldn't carry their load. Whatever the reason, it gives Anissa the advantage. The man behind is larger and stronger, normally an asset, but here it works against him. He'll never get past this obstacle, but can she? She crouches, gauging the dimensions of the opening, planning her approach. The trick is not to touch the walls because of their furnace heat, something she knows all too well. The heat suit can survive the heat of the mine, but not if it's pressed up against the near molten stone. Anissa sidles forward awkwardly, crouching to clear the overhang. Her balance wavers and she nearly topples, but manages to keep her footing. Her injured hand brushes the wall just once, with a sunburst of pain, but she bites her lip and keeps going. She's clear. The obstruction is past. Her pursuer can't follow. Some impossible time later, after an interval she can't clearly measure, Anissa emerges from the burning hell of the Centralia mine into a bright spring afternoon, many miles from the ruined AWOL camp. She's near a stand of gnarled oak trees and rolling hills of grass and thistle and wind-blown dandelion. She peels off her heat suit, like a prisoner escaping from bondage, and breathes in a lungful of air that's neither superheated nor caustic. She can almost forget the throbbing pain in her ruined hand. They'll be looking for her. She has to keep moving. Anissa has ample time, she hopes, to find help, someone to clean and dress her wound and help her escape from the juvenile authority. Plenty of locals are sympathetic to AWOLs. She gives herself an even chance of getting away clean. She turns to leave, but then hears a voice behind her. "Help me." A stooped figure emerges from the mine, tearing at a badly damaged heat suit. He's a buff, someone Anissa's never seen. Blonde and buzz cut, and clearly in pain. The suit is crumpled and torn on the left-hand side, perhaps because he was too large to wriggle through the tight passage, but somehow did it anyways. His left arm, Anissa notes, has been severed by the suit, just above the elbow. He tumbles to the ground and lies still. She checks his pulse. He's still got one. The smart move would be to forget about him, hoping he'll die, maybe even speeding the process. She admits it's tempting. Ignoring him would make her escape much easier. Getting help for him will call attention and risk her own safety. She could find a roundabout way to do it, get a backwoods hunter to say he found the man, perhaps making no mention of Anissa, but anything she tries will increase her chance of getting caught. Should she run or risk helping another? Anissa smiles. She is not, nor ever will be, like the people who want to unwind her. She is her father's daughter, which means her choice is obvious.